Good evening. I waited a couple of minutes, but looks like everybody's unavailable again, so I'm going to go ahead and get started on chapter 15. Um, so I'm hoping at this point you've read your chapter, um, and we've started a new section of the book. We're now into business leadership, treating your business like a business. Which is always important and something we need to be encouraging all of our teams to be doing as well. But this is really focusing a lot on as you're developing leaders within your team and within your group. Um, Part of that is handing off some of those responsibilities, letting your rising leaders take responsibility for their own business and their own teams. It's kind of ironic that this was our chapter for this week, and I actually had a conversation with one of my friends who is struggling a little bit with her upline because she kind of feels like her toes are getting stepped on. She's um, every month, she does shout outs like I do shout outs. A lot of leaders do shout outs on their team page, and she's got an upline who's kind of like jumping in and getting those done before this girl gets a chance to do it. And so there's a little push and pull in there, and it's kind of a complicated part of the process. I think we've talked about it before that as you see your emerging leaders and they're growing their teams, like at what point do you really push those leaders out of the nest and let them do their own thing? And at what point do you continue to help? And it's kind of a gray area even when you look at the stewardship requirements for directors and above, according to the CINFI standards. But you are directly responsible for everybody under you. But if you've got emerging leaders, you want to encourage them to do their thing and be strong and go on. It's one of those tough balances though, because you need to you know stay in touch with even downline so that they know you're there and you're available. Hopefully encouraging them to participate in whatever's going on in the larger group, um, and as well as if for some reason they're not getting the help, the support that they want. And it may be just a clash of personalities, or it may be that their direct upline is ghosting them and not helping them, or what have you. I mean, it happens. It all happens, even in my little group of now 48 people. Um, anyway, this chapter is kind of all about that. It's about being a hands-on leader. I'm going to touch on all of them just real quick. It's 10 steps. Um, the challenge was about working with your team to implement some of these ideas, get their feedback, give your feedback, using your Facebook page or other formats to share successes they're having with the ideas shared. So this was kind of meant to be a back and forth amongst all of us on what we're doing. I'm getting the feeling all three of you are behind, so I didn't do that. I still haven't done the shout out on the team page. Last week kind of got away from me. It's the holiday. I should have known better. I will do that tomorrow um, when I finish going over all of the other monthly November shout outs. So that's my plan, just to give you guys. I do have a plan. It just last week was just kind of a mess, and I didn't really have. It's complicated. We're just going to leave it at that. It's not done, but it will be tomorrow. But anyway, you can work with your team. If you've got some emerging leaders already, it's not a bad idea to talk to them about these 10 steps, to get their ideas on it, and that sort of thing. And if you want to bounce ideas off of me, when some of you get to this point, if you want to post in there and ask for ideas, then by all means do so. I mean, I'm not going to archive this group anytime soon. I'm going to let it be here for you guys to reference back if you need to and ask questions. And as you're getting caught up or doing whatever you're doing, as far as the Director in 20 program goes, then by all means we can do that feedback at that point. But I'm going to go ahead and get started with chapter 15. Believe it or not, we are almost done with the program, just a few more weeks. It's been a long haul, I know, and it's been during a busy season, so don't feel bad. for being a little behind the curve. So chapter 15 is titled Be a Proactive Leader. Always be in a position to influence results. She starts out by talking about being, the more hours everybody works, the better off everybody's going to be. I don't necessarily think that. I don't think is necessarily based on how many hours everybody works. I am not one of those leaders who wants, everybody in my team pouring their life into this business. I would rather them have, 30 minutes of intentional, focused, productive activity than spending 2 or 3 hours doing nothing but scrolling and that sort of thing. If you're being real productive in 2-3 hours, then that's fine. But I think the intentionality and their productivity is way more important than the hours spent. I try to encourage people, talk to people more about, you can do a lot in 15 to 30 minutes a day. I started the challenge for December today. Well, I announced it yesterday, sent the email today, and one of the things I'm really emphasizing on this is 15 to 20 minutes a day. And I've got some follow-up that I'm going to do with that as well. But anyway, that's one area that I don't really agree with that. It's not about the hours spent. It's about what you do in the time that you have set aside for your business. She also talks about monitoring team performance weekly, excuse me, daily, weekly. So there's no surprises at the end of the month. For me, this kind of goes back to writing down those numbers on a daily basis and knowing where you track, knowing how you typically react, and when I say you, I'm talking about the collective you that is your group and your team. If you're a team that gets 54% of your group wholesale volume in the second 2 weeks of the month, then, if you're sitting at a certain group wholesale volume in the middle of the month, you can guess, okay, this is probably where we're going to go. You don't have to panic, I guess, is what I want to say. And I honestly, knowing many directors and above at this point, end of the month is always bigger than the rest of the month. And I mean, you can plan and you can coach and you can cajole as much as you want. I don't know that that's ever going to change. I would like to be like some other groups that are hitting, director numbers by the 15th or 20th. You know what I mean? It's always the goal, so that when big things happen at the end of the month, it's just icing on the cake, which is kind of where we're at with this December challenge too. So she gives a series of all too common scenarios is what she calls it, where somebody misses the mark because they weren't paying attention and neither was their sponsor or their director or upline, whatever you want to call it. Last month of a promotion, team member miscalculates what they need to get the incentive. They become disgruntled and quit running the business like they were. A new recruit forgets to place the order in time to get a fast start reward and they miss out. An emerging leader is let down by a team member who promises to place an order but subsequently decides not to. Been there. So instead of celebrating promotion, you're commiserating a disheartened team member. Promising new team member doesn't sponsor in the first 3 months, but you don't ask them why. You don't try to find out what's going on. And then they fade away and you're back to square one again after lots of time spent teaching them. She says most of these can be avoided with hands-on leadership. I agree to a certain extent. I mean, you can be all kinds of hands-on, but if they're not being responsive, there's really not much you can do but continue to try to be hands-on and hope that they respond. But, we talk about it all the time. You can lead the horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I still firmly believe that staying in touch and trying again is good, but don't spend an exorbitant amount of time on somebody who's not responding. Send them a text once or twice a month just to let them know you're still there, but don't be sending them stuff daily trying to get them to come back or what have you. If they're disinterested, your time is better spent elsewhere, either on other team members or in having join conversations with potential new people. All right, 10 ways to be a hands-on leader. Number one, developing a structured calendar. It's vitally important to me that we have that leader group meeting and the team meeting at the same time, at the same place, every single month. Does that mean sometimes I have to be fun and flexible about it? You bet. Yesterday was a prime example of that. And there was another example for the team meeting in November. Sometimes it means you have to record it instead of being live. But for me, it was more important to keep the consistency, the structure, for the leaders and the group to know that they can count on a meeting at 7:30 on the first Monday or the first Thursday of the month. And that's important. I think it's important to, I'm not at the point yet where I'm having big team meetings or big convention opportunities, that kind of thing. There's very few expos and fairs that we work together as a larger group. I do offer a couple of them to go in with me to work together, but by and large, that's just not where we are. I do hope to at some point get there where myself and other top leaders are planning, a cool retreat or an on-site training opportunity, what have you. We're just not there yet, but someday. But I agree, having a structured calendar is good. So if you are at the point where you're doing team meetings, pick a day and time and stick with it, even if that means you have to be flexible and you have to record it, or you post a training from somebody else, or you invite a guest speaker in to do the meeting for you. But having that structure where they know that that's going to happen. Doing shout outs. I don't usually do it on the first of the month. I'm more of the, second, third, or fourth. But for the most part, I get those done in the first week. And it's kind of fun. Ooh, let's do this. But maybe that's an area where I could be more structured. Getting help, setting those dates, keeping things mapped out. And of course, we're up to Cincy's. We didn't even know what dates World Tour was until just, what was it, a few weeks ago. We've known the SFR dates for a while, but some levels of it are out of our control. Encouraging smart work habits. Allison Dalkey, our Superstar Director, is all about working smarter, not harder. Don't reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. You don't want people missing out because of last minute things. So encourage people, again, this whole end of the month panic thing. Ways to avoid it is encouraging people to front load and front decide what they're doing. There was a person on my team for years and years and years who always, and I mean always, collected orders for the whole month, and she would place one large order the last day of the month. She did that for a long time, and she had a couple of panic months, and I said, you got to run your business how you got to do it. If you want to collect the orders and then place one big one, that's fine, but you're probably going to be better off to not be planning to do that on the last day of the month. So I would plan it for 3 or 4 days ahead of that, just to make sure if you have a payment problem, or there's any kind of hiccup, your computer doesn't work, your Wi-Fi's out, whatever the case may be, then you're not out getting paid because you can't get that one order in on the last day of the month. Stuff happens. I mean, it just does. There's sometimes it's out of our control. So encouraging our team members to get stuff done early in the month, which I'm hoping we have some good early in the month stuff that goes on in December with this group challenge. And then after that, I am going to encourage everybody that before they completely shut down the books, to spend a day trying to front load their January calendar and trying to, like tumbleweed this along into having some success going forward as well. Um, um, she talks about maximizing time. It's so hard, especially when you're a leader, as your team grows and gets bigger, picking and choosing how to spend your time, what is most effective, what's the most promising, what's the best. Um, and she talks about, and this is actually something that um, Chloe Cox talks a lot about. Is she does her personal business the first 2 weeks of the month, so that she can really focus on her team the second 2 weeks of the month, so she can be there pushing people to hit their sales goals, or their recruiting conversation goals, or to aim for that promotion or whatever. And let me tell you, she is promoting directors right and left. So obviously she's doing something right, and I bet she's read this book, just so you know. We talk a lot about the 80-20 rule. 80% of your time should be spent on your business, 20% on um, helping those in your stewardship. I still think that's true, but I also kind of like how she's broken it down a little bit into a third on personal activity, a third on group activity, and a third on breakaway leaders. I don't know that it's thirds, so I think it would be better to break it down into quarters and say half on personal activity, a quarter on group, and a quarter on breakaway leaders. But that's me. Whatever you want to do, you do what works best for you. I will tell you, I don't spend the right amount of time on my personal business. I spend more on the leadership stuff. Number 4, stretch your working year as far as possible. And this is about a little bit toward the front loading thing as well. Encouraging that in October and November, be thinking about booking for January. Allison talks about working in 3-month increments. So she's always working in 3-month increments. So December, she's working on December, she's working on January and February. In January, she'll be working on January, February, and March. So she has this rolling 3-month thing going along. And that's kind of sort of what's going on here. Working late in December. We know December's iffy and sketchy. We'll see what happens. But you don't want people completely falling off and then suddenly it's January and, oh, I got to start all over again because I haven't done anything. The goal is to get in the habit of working in these 3-month increments, or always be looking ahead a little bit. I love this whole customer loyalty month stuff. My brain started rolling. I was like, ooh, maybe I will do something, with that this month. Creating themes for parties. So just be thinking forward on, what am I going to do in January? January is going to be 10% off, and it's going to be bring back my bar. What can I do? And right after, 2 weeks after the end of January is Valentine's Day, so I should probably market Valentine's Day. Second half of January, what can I do? February is going to be the new catalog season. So just knowing what we as a corporation typically do, looking at the consultant calendar, and be forward thinking with your business and forward planning where you're going to get your sales. Makes things a lot easier. Drive performance with a mix of individual and team recognition programs. Shout out day, best day in the month. We have, I have one day that, it takes me a little bit of time to run all the reports and get all of that done. And I don't think I do the same thing every single month as far as shout outs. I'm trying to do more team stuff. We do the individual stuff. It's the best day of the year. There's no doubt about it. I think everybody enjoys it. It gets the most interaction on the team page out of the entire month, and it's amazing. And I encourage you to be doing something similar yourself. And I know some leaders who do individual shout outs, meaning that they individually message or call people recognizing things. I am doing that a little bit, not as much as I would like to. Again, it's, hopefully, please Jesus, 2020 settles down a little bit for me. Trying to learn to settle my brain while I work. But I've been trying to do a little bit more of that of, hey, great job this month. You're on a great streak, even though you're not, not saying, there's people who are on active streaks, but they're not 2019 consistency stars. You know what I mean? So those little things are great as well. Beating your personal best, team recognitions. Everybody likes to be recognized. Everybody likes that pat on the back, that sort of thing. Tracking promises against promotion. I mean, bleh. I was trying to read 2 paragraphs at once. So also under the recognition, make sure we've talked about it before. There's 2 schools of thought on the including yourself or not including yourself when you're doing top sales stuff. I still think it's important to include yourself because you want your team to know that you're in the trenches doing the work as well, so that you're not just this person on a pedestal who's not doing the stuff and is just reaping money from their work. You want them to see that you're doing the work too, that you've got to get your sales. Excuse me. Tracking promises against performance. Beginning of the month, get in touch with everybody, find out what their goals are, write it down where you can see it. Maybe it's part of your system that one day every month you pull it up and you look at it and you say, okay, their goal is this is where they're at. I need to touch base with them. Ooh, they're already tracking ahead of it. Again, opportunity for individual recognition as well. So keeping an eye on that workstation. You need to be checking it every day. Reporting tab, reporting. I don't even know what to call them anymore. They're not tabs. The reporting section. I do the performance reports daily, usually multiple times daily. I don't use the reporting one as often, but I do use it. But yeah, you just be in there and see what's going on. Find reasons to recognize people, or reasons to touch base and say, hey, can I help you? Actively work your group schedule. Constantly checking the schedule against results flowing in and responding when performance exceeds or falls short of expectation. She talks a lot about knowing everybody's, how many parties they have on the books or how many conversations they have on the books. I don't get into that because I don't want to micromanage. If people want to share that with me, I'm more than willing to listen to it and to be helpful, but I don't need to know what everybody else's calendar looks like. I can barely keep up with my own calendar. If somebody tells me, hey, I've got a party on such and such date, I'll be like, great, that's fantastic. And I will try to make a note of it in my agenda so that I can touch base with them and send a, hey, good luck, and the day or 2 later say how to go. But I don't need to see 50 people's calendars. I just don't. But if people are sharing that information, it's good to know and it's good to be supportive. Don't sit on information. I don't think we have to worry about this too much, fortunately. Cindy is really good about putting important information on the workstation. But one of the things that makes it important to me for us to be a director level group is for me to be able to have access to the director pages. The director calls on Mondays are great, but I don't know that I get a whole lot of earth-shattering information that I have to tell you guys. If I get information that everybody needs, then I try to do my best to share it. But examples from last week was when the issue was going on with the Disney product sales. I was monitoring several threads that were going on the director page because, it's one of those things just like every other page where nobody goes to search and see if somebody's already asked. They go ahead and ask themselves, and then you've got to look at 18 different threads on 3 different pages to see where the answer comes from, if the answer comes from home office. So that was something I was monitoring last Friday mornings what's going on, what's the fix, what are we going to do? And then on top of that, late on Saturday night, Lacey Hanson, who is just amazing, Lacey and Patience Peterson, and there's another one. They are on that page late until the night on end of month, monitoring stuff for us and letting us know if things are legit sold out or inventory shifts. I mean, they do it on other nights, other days as well, but end of month, every time I try to shut down, I'm like, okay, one more quick scroll. Okay, something else sold out. But fortunately, it's not a real heavy thing for us to have to stay on top of that for our team members. Probably 90% of the time, if not 95% of the time, it's going to be on the news tab in a timely manner. Toward the end of the month, it's probably the only time that kind of thing needs to be monitored a little more closely so that information gets where it needs to be quickly. But she gave some information about people getting information and not sharing it. It happens, but I'm not privy to a whole lot of information that you guys can't get as well, but sometimes I get it a little bit faster, and I try to get it to you as quickly as possible if it's something that you need to know now and you can't wait for that news article. You know what I mean? Anyway, number 9, encourage idea sharing, interaction, and feedback on your team page. If you don't have a team communication something or another set up at this point, I really think you should do that. All of you have team sizes more than big enough to support that sort of thing. It's an opportunity for bonding. It's an opportunity for conversation. It's an opportunity to further create that sticky culture, to create your culture for what you want as a leader. It doesn't necessarily have to be Facebook. I know some people are getting away from Facebook. Megan and I had a conversation today about Pastor Levi Lusko was our guest pastor this weekend, and he was talking to us about, and I'm probably going to share this with the group too because it still blows my mind, how social media, the point of social media, even though they want to yell about it being social and being in touch with the world and this kind of thing, but at the end of the day, they're trying to make money. There were reasons why they're billion-dollar corporations. They want to make money. Well, how do they make money? They make money by selling ads. And in order for the ads to be purposeful for the people placing them, it's got to be in front of eyeballs, right? And then if it's not in front of eyeballs, it's not doing anybody any good. So if you're posting something and you're wanting to know if anybody commented, anybody reacted, you're going to keep going back to check it, right? Because you're wanting that kind of thing. So his proposal was that social media intentionally doesn't propagate everything that you post, because if they did, everything that you posted got attention, you would eventually get bored of going back to look to see if it got attention. So you got to keep looking to see if it did. You got to keep looking to see if it did. And every time you look, it's an opportunity for their advertisers, their advertisements to serve the purpose and make them money, right? Are you following that? Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? We just thought it was algorithms and likes and comments. And that's part of it, but it still all goes back to this ad-driven situation. So I understand if you don't want to do Facebook or something or another. There are other things out there. Voxer is a walkie-talkie thing where you can talk to each other. Marco Polo is video conversations, like a video walkie-talkie. Band is something that Allison has been using. Remind 101 could also be used. I don't know if it's as much as a conversation. I think it's more of an announcement kind of thing. But there are probably other apps out there that I'm unaware of that could also be utilized for this conversational building relationship thing. I mean, you could do a messenger thread and it's probably going to get seen more than a Facebook page. The problem is with the messenger thread, I mean, I could not do one with 50 people because the conversation would annoy somebody and people would be leaving right and left, and I'd look like so. Number 10, keep up with advancements, trends, and initiatives. This one is harder for me because it's not my forte to be doing research and to be looking into what all the trends are. But fortunately, I have really good friends who do, and they are kind enough to teach me their ways. But yeah, I mean, it's to a degree, it is important. It's good to know the latest apps that people are using. It's good to know technology things that other consultants are using, or maybe there's something out there that you can find that you want to share with other people. But you know, you got to go where your market is. And she talks about Gen Y, the millennials, knowing what is going to appeal to the different generations, knowing what market is the biggest spenders right now, that sort of thing. It's important market research. I'm not going to deny that. I'm still going to go back to Carrie Wilkerson, who says, create your ideal person in your mind, and that's the person you market to every single time. And I think that's an individual thing. I mean, and I'm probably going to market to moms because I'm a mom, and that's an important role for me, and it's an important part of why I do what I do. I would probably get a lot more specific about it than that, obviously, but in theory, when I'm creating content, I should create content that's going to attract my ideal person. Your ideal person may be different than my ideal person, but when you create your ideal person, then you need to look into the trends. What is that person interested in? And obviously they're a fictional person, but where would they hang out? Where are they going to be? Where are you going to find them? Where are you going to put your name and your brand in front of their face to entice them to look into what you have to offer? And what problem do you solve for them? So I think that kind of goes hand in hand with that number 10. All right. I'm going to move into chapter 16. Woohoo! Working smarter, maximizing things. Working smarter, not harder. Let's see what the challenge is. You guys are going to have to share 3 activities you're going to stop doing and 2 activities you're going to focus on as your most important activities. I can tell you the coaching conversations that I had. I talked about this in the leader group as well. There is a whole lot of I want to do all of the things, and it's hard, especially if you follow a lot of really good consultants, really good superstar directors who do their jobs well, and you want to do everything they do. Here's the thing: you don't have to be them. You got to do things your own way, and don't try to implement everything they're doing all at once because you're going to blow your own mind. So I love that this is the challenge for this week. I love that it really is that time. This is the time of year to be analyzing what you did in 2019, what worked, what didn't work, and identify 1 or 2 things that you want to try in 2020. So this is a spot on challenge. I love it. So 3 things you're going to stop doing and 2 things that you're going to start doing. Clearly, they need to be somewhat based on the chapter. But I look forward to hearing from you guys and knowing what you're going to start and what you're going to stop. So I can cheer you on in that. I mentioned Chloe earlier, treating your business like a business. One of the things I didn't mention, I'm pretty sure it was early on in the chapter, was all about having systems. Maybe I dreamed that, but I could have swore there was something in here about systems. Maybe not. Anywho, if you're looking for stuff to implement for 2020, if you're struggling with overwhelm or you're struggling to get the ball rolling, that kind of thing, you need systems. Chloe Cox has amazing systems. Anna Hughes has a really, really good frontline focus system, and you can find that stuff on their YouTube channels. So Chloe preaches about systems. And obviously her system maybe not be the system you want to use. I don't know what her system is. You gotta, whatever system you're going to use is going to be the one that works. But you definitely, systems just make all the difference in the world. They just really, really do. All right, that's going to be it. I just wanted to throw that one out there. I don't know why I thought systems were in there. Maybe I just didn't find them again when I was scrolling through. But I was thinking there were two things I wanted to mention that had something to do with Chloe, and one was systems, and one was the personal work in the first 2 weeks. But anyway, I'm gonna go. I hope you'll have a great night, and I will see you next week. Bye.